Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Kev's Movie Corner. I am Kev and this week we are talking about the bridge over the River Kwai. This movie was released in 1957, starring Alec Guinness, Jack Hawkins, William Holden as your main characters. Quick synopsis from IMDb. British POWs are forced to build a railway bridge across the River Kwai for their Japanese captors in occupied Burma, not knowing that Allied forces are planning a daring commando raid through the jungle to destroy it. I really enjoyed this movie. It's almost 3 hours long, but it goes by really quick. It starts very quickly with your group of British soldiers who have been captured marching into their POW camp. And this is the first time there's a common whistling tune that I am not going to whistle on here because I'm not that good at it. But there's a common tune on here that I had not heard anywhere. I've heard it before. I just didn't know where it come from, and I guess it's from this. I heard it years ago in the 90s when it was on Fresh Prince, because it was the theme for, in the later seasons, it was also, the tune was the same theme for a University of Los Angeles where Will and Carlton go to school later. And it's only used in it's used in one random episode. But anyway, moving on from that. This movie was very good. Again, it starts with the British soldiers, captured British soldiers, marching into the camp, whistling this tune. They are immediately, the lead officer in that group, played by Alec Guinness, is immediately basically confronted by the Japanese commander, who says all of them are going to work, even the officers. The Alec Guinness's character points out that officers are not supposed to work part of the Geneva Convention, so he gets thrown in a hutch to basically melt in the heat. Little metal building. I've seen it used in other movies and war type things, but it's like a torture chamber. Basically, they just put you in this little metal hutch out in the middle out in the sun, and you just bake in there. And he ends up being in there for a couple months, I think, in general, until the Japanese commander decides that this bridge isn't going well, so he needs help to get the British soldiers to work better to get a bridge built. While this is happening, you have an American that was in this POW camp who escapes, and he ends up getting out. It's even though basically everybody says there's no reason you can't get out, it's impossible. He ends up getting out, and making it to a British encampment, and then he gets recruited immediately, pretty much, to go back and blow up this bridge that the British are building. It is very interesting because the whole time the British end up, there's a couple British, there's a medic and a couple of soldiers who are questioning the idea behind their commander, because he decides to build the Japanese a better bridge. So the British design and build a better bridge than what the Japanese were building in the first place, move where it is so that it will actually stand, which people question him on this, like, why are you building them a better bridge than what they can? It's not our job to help the enemy. That could be seen as treason, and he just kind of blows it off and is like, well, we're British, we're gonna show that we're gonna do everything correct, even if we are, and um, even if we are being held captive and working for somebody else. So that while that's going on, you see the other crew trekking through the jungle to try to get to this bridge to blow it up. They end up making it there. Bridge gets finished in the timeline that it's supposed to. The Japanese commander is kind of almost... what's the best word for it? He seems defeated because the British have been able to get this bridge done when he's been working on it for forever and hasn't. He almost seems like he's been defeated because nobody listens to him and everybody's listening to the British commanders who are in his camp, even though they're war prisoners. So that you've got that dynamic going on. You've got the dynamic of the other people trying to get through the jungle. And eventually the crew that's coming in to blow up the bridge, they wire the bridge. They wire the bridge at night, and the next day, the climactic part of the movie. So of course, if you're watching this, I'm hoping you've already seen the movie. But if you don't want to know, watch it and come back. But anyway, the climactic part, they wire the bridge at night. The river lowers so you can actually see the wire from the explosives. And the British commander notices this and then basically tries to prevent the bridge from being blown up, even though it is an enemy bridge. He ends up getting one of his men killed to protect the bridge. And that's just, it's a weird dynamic. He ends up getting him killed. He ends up dying as well, along with the Japanese commander and one of the American, the main American who had escaped from this place and came back. So most of the Allied guys, there's one that's left behind that got injured earlier, but most of the Allied guys end up dying. The only way that the bridge gets blown up is that this commander falls on the plunger and ends up blowing up the bridge on accident. And before that happens, he realizes, like, oh, what am I doing? I'm working for the enemy. Like, they were here to blow up this bridge. I need to help them. After the other two have already died, he ends up getting shot by the Japanese and then keeling over and just falling on the thing. And it's really interesting. It moves along really well with everything that happens. I enjoyed it a lot. And anybody who wants to see it, if you haven't, like I said, it's a great thing to watch. It won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. It was inducted into the National Film Library at the Library of Congress in 1997. And it was in 1999. It was ranked as the 11th greatest British film of the 20th century. It's a really good movie. It's shot very well, so it's easy to watch too. It doesn't. Some of these old movies look old. I didn't think this one did. I thought this one was fine. It's filmed well. It's shot well, especially for being made in the 50s. It doesn't. I mean, the outfits and things look old, but it's also based in World War II. This is all happening towards the end of World War II, but it doesn't look. To me, it didn't look old, which is something that I know can sometimes take away from the immersion into those films. So, okay. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the trivia things and interesting facts on this. It says that the Japanese colonel in the movie, was based off of a real major who was said to be one of the most reasonable and humane of all the Japanese prison camps, which he's played in this is entirely opposite of that, of being ruthless, not willing to compromise, not willing to follow, any of the rules of or laws of war. But it is, yeah, it's a very, very good movie. Again, it's almost 3 hours, but it, flies by like that. Recommend it for anybody who likes older films, who likes. It is a war film, but it's not. It's not like an action-packed war film. There's a couple. Well, there's really only one like action scene, and that's towards the end when they all, when the whole almost blowing up the bridge happens. So, it's not an overly war-ish film, or an overly battle-ish, like bloody guts, war film. But it's very good. I recommend it. Again, Bridge Over the River Kwai. Next week, I think that's it for this week. Next week we're gonna watch The Best Years of Our Lives from 1946. So don't forget to watch that with me. Like, subscribe, comment, and I will talk to you guys next week.